Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is a classic episode from the Twilight Zone. Written by Richard Matheson and directed by Richard Donner, it tells the story of a man fresh from a nervous breakdown who believes he sees someone or something on the wing of a plane. Is it just part of his mental breakdown, or is something more sinister afoot? Well, we're about to find out as we enter the Twilight Zone. The episode begins as Bob and Julia Wilson board a flight that Bob is a little more than apprehensive about. Bob has recently been released from a sanitarium after suffering a nervous breakdown on a flight not too dissimilar from this. The only difference being that flight was cancelled and this one will make it all the way home.
Do you want me to sit next to the window?
No. Fine.
Bob notices that he's sitting next to an emergency window and this seems to trigger his anxiety, but he assures his wife he'll be alright. He pulls out a cigarette, but now isn't the time for smoking. You have to wait for the no smoking sign to turn off first.
I'm not going to let...
Cabin door secured.
What?
He's a little jumpy, but assures his wife everything is going to be just fine. He at least made it in the air this time, but they appear to be in a bit of a storm. Looking out his window, he notices something rather strange. There appears to be someone or something on the wing of the plane. His wife is passed out on sleeping pills, so he pages for the flight attendant.
There's a man out there.
What?
This is the exact reaction anyone would have to news like this. When they look back out, whatever this thing was seems to have vanished. His wife wakes up and hands him a sleeping pill because he just needs some rest. There's no way he saw something on the wing of the plane. Somehow a Yeti managed to get onto the wing of a plane. He calls the stewardess over, but as soon as he does, the creature hightails it. It's like it knows that it's messing with him.
Would you wake up, please, honey?
The creature returns, but I have no explanation for how it just did that. It starts playing with the propeller, and then it starts to lift a panel off one of the engines.
What?
He wakes his wife to show her the creature, but it sort of just flies off right as she's about to look. Bob tells her there's a man out there, but no, not a man, a gremlin. And now this episode just turned into Mr. Futterman's origin tale.
You gotta watch out for the foreigners because they plant gremlins in their machinery.
He gets the kind of reaction from his wife that you would expect. It seems rather convenient though that the gremlin seems to jump away when someone else tries to see it, almost like it's all in his head.
I know I had a mental breakdown. I know I had it in an airplane. I know it looks to you as if the same thing's happening again, but it isn't.
His wife starts to patronize him, but this only frustrates Bob, because he knows how crazy he's sounding, but he saw what he saw. Bob tells his wife to just tell the pilots what he saw. If they see damage to the wings, then he isn't crazy, but if they don't, then he'll recommit himself back to the sanitarium.
No, I'll tell them. You just sit tight and I'll go tell them.
His wife leaves to get the pilot, and the gremlin returns looking like Fozzie Bear. It is kind of cute for a hideous monster. Bob starts freaking out and the flight engineer and his wife run over to him. He claims this gremlin is tearing a plate off one of the engines, but again, when everyone looks, there's nothing there.
I saw him pull that plate up.
The engineer starts to play along with Bob, pretending he saw it too, but Bob catches on right away and realizes no one believes him. His wife and the engineer leave, and he hands her some pills that might help Bob relax. The gremlin returns to once again cause more damage, but how the hell does it know when Bob's wife is about to return? She hands her husband the pill, which he takes, hoping that it will help him sleep and forget all about this supposed gremlin. He's rather sneaky though and didn't actually swallow the pill. Right on cue comes his friend the gremlin, and it appears to be wearing running shoes. Bob's going to have to take things into his own hands, however, and spots a sleeping cop with a revolver. He does the old pretend to drop something trick so he can get close and take the cop's gun. This is definitely the kind of guy you want to have a gun on a plane. Now, he can't just shoot through a window on a plane, so how's he going to nail this little monster? He sends his wife off to grab him a cup of water because he doesn't want her around for what he's about to do. He He nearly gets sucked out, but good thing opening a window on a plane seems to have no effect on the people inside it. He aims the gun at the creature, shooting it 6 times. And what does he get for saving everyone from this so-called gremlin? Well, a trip back to the sanitarium. But was it all just in his head, or did he really see something on the wing of that plane? I guess we'll just never know. Oh, well, I guess the gremlin was real. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is a very fun episode. Yes, the creature looks very silly by today's standards, well, even the standards of the time, but it's still a fun monster. Richard Matheson returns once again to write this episode, and like The Invaders, it's based off another one of his short stories of the same name, which was originally published in the horror anthology book titled Alone by Night. The original idea for the story came when Matheson was looking out a window while taking a flight. As he watched the clouds below, he pictured a man sort of skiing along them as if they were snow. This image in his mind reminded him of the tale of gremlins that World War II pilots would talk about damaging and disrupting their aircrafts. Except the gremlin in this story would be far more sinister than the often mischievous and silly ones told in those old tales. In the original story, Matheson only offered brief glimpses of the creature, but described it as being troll-like with short clawed arms and covered in hair. The gremlin was fairly accurately achieved by William Tuttle, who was the makeup designer, but Matheson didn't care for it, saying, "But this thing looked more like a panda bear." One of the biggest reasons for the gremlin not being up to snuff came from time and budgetary restraints, which caused Tuttle to pull a previously made monster suit off the rack from MGM's costume department. The man under the suit was Nick Cravett, an acrobat and actor who got his start alongside Burt Lancaster as the duo Lang and Cravett. They toured like this through the 1930s until Burt Lancaster became a big star, after which Nick would work some small supporting roles in his films. Nick Cravett was chosen to play the gremlin mostly because of how athletic he was. They needed someone that could withstand all the wind and rain while being hooked to wires that would help him fly in and out of frame. He also wore special soles that would help him keep a grip while he was on the wing of the plane. The makeup Cavett wore on his face was designed by Tuttle, but applied by makeup artist Grant Keat in his one and only job on the show. The episode for the most part only takes place in a single setting, with brief shots of the plane outside and a brief shot on the runway at the end. Relegating the bulk of the episode to a passenger airplane cabin, the set was a cabin and wing suspended above a large tank to collect the rainwater used for the shoot. This setup would prove to be troublesome for the shoot, as the water would make moving around on the set an issue. On top of that, the wind machines and smoke machines used made much of the dialogue unusable, so they had to go back and loop anything that may have been affected. During the second day of shooting, MGM approached director Richard Donner and told him they needed to use the rain machine the next day, as major film productions always took precedent over TV. Because of this, Donner decided they would have to shoot all night, and by the following morning they managed to have it all shot. Speaking of Richard Donner, he would go on to be one of the most, if not the most, prolific director to come out of the Twilight Zone with movies like The Omen, Superman 1 and 2, The Goonies, and the Lethal Weapon films. He's unfortunately no longer with us, having passed away July 5th, 2021, at the age of 91. Since this episode is also one of the most popular of the series, it's been parodied many times over the years. Saturday Night Live did a parody in 2010 with Jude Law playing the role that Shatner made famous, along with The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 4 segment titled Terror at 5.5 Feet, in which Bart believes he sees a gremlin on the side of their school bus, only for everyone aboard to think he's lost his mind.
Otto, you gotta do something! There's a gremlin on the side of the bus!
The episode was also remade twice, once in the 1983 Twilight Zone movie, with John Lithgow now playing the role of a man tormented by a creature on the wing of the plane, and secondly in the 2019 reboot, with the title being changed to Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. The plot involving the gremlin is completely removed in this version, and instead it focuses on a sinister podcast. The gremlin does cameo at the end in the form of a doll though. Ed Kemmer played the role of the flight engineer. He was born October 29, 1920, and got his start with the 1954 show Waterfront. He appeared in 182 episodes of Space Patrol, a sci-fi adventure show similar to Flash Gordon, and he was paid $8 an episode. He also appeared in 256 episodes of The Clear Horizon, a daytime serial about astronaut Roy Selby and his family at Cape Canaveral. Ed passed away on November 9, 2004 at the age of 84. Christine White played Julia Wilson, the wife. She was born on May 4th, 1926. She appears in one other Twilight Zone episode, that being the Season 2 episode, The Prime Mover. Christine had many small roles over her career, with quite possibly her biggest one being in 32 episodes of the TV series Ichabod and Me. Christine is no longer with us, passing away April 14th, 2013. William Shatner played Bob Wilson, the lead of the episode. What can really be said about Shatner? I mean, he's a legend. He was born March 22nd, 1931, and got his start with the 1951 movie, The Butler's Night Off. He too appears in another Twilight Zone episode, that being Season 2's Nick of Time. During the filming of this episode, William Shatner and a friend of his, Ed Burns, played a prank on director Richard Donner. During one of their breaks, Shatner and Burns staged a fake fight on the set, which was suspended 30 feet in the air. When Donner came to see what the commotion was all about, the two men ran out to the wing of the plane. Donner saw a body fall from the plane as Burns screamed in terror while it hit the concrete below. When Richard Donner ran over to the body, he was expecting to see a dead or very injured Shatner, but instead what he got was laughter once he realized the body was just a dummy the two men had found in another part of the studio. Shatner would go on to spoof this role in the TV sitcom Third Rock from the Sun, when speaking to John Lithgow's character claiming he saw something on the wing of the plane, to which John says the same thing happened to him, as they both appeared in different versions of the episode.
I looked out the window, and I saw something on the wing of the plane. The same thing happened to me.
And obviously, William Shatner's most iconic role, that of the poisoned man in Police Squad. Alright, it's Captain James Tiberius Kirk in Star Trek. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is an excellent episode and comes highly recommended. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's look at the Twilight Zone. If you did, please leave a little like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, and please let me know what you think of this episode. Thank you all for watching, and catch you next time in the Twilight Zone.